Coding Challenge Review Expert 11th of April. Arguably the most complicated coding challenge we've ever done. So guys, introduce yourself as usual if you don't mind. Thank you very much. And then, yeah, let's look at the first question. Is divisible by previous? Yes, sorry about that. Cool. I hope now you can see the screen. Yes, thank you for letting me know, Daniel. Cool. So is divisible by previous digit. So we got a floating number. Last case is not floating, it's integer, but generally speaking, it's a floating number, and we want to see if any digit is divisible by the previous digit, right? So it's 3 divisible by 7? No. Is 3 divisible by 3? Yes, right? All these things. To make it a bit more complicated, on the first one, we should compare against the last digit, right? So we would round to the end, right? Is 7 divisible by 2? No. Is 2 divisible by 6? No. Is 6 divisible by 2? Yes, true, right? So that's pretty much the idea. So the structure of the exercise is pretty much what we already know. So we got a number, interestingly, because we may get a floating number, if we read the instructions, it's a please ignore the decimals, if any. I'm very curious to see how you manage to split the number to transform the number into an integer. Not sure if any of you use a split, but I'm going to do something different. So I'm going to create, let's see if I can return everything in one go or not, or if I regret afterwards, but for now, I'll try to do, so can I do math.floor number, right? So that will give me the integer part. You won't round anything. I don't want to round anything. I just want to get the integer part, right? So math.round will definitely do the trick. Once I got the integer part, essentially I want to iterate on each individual digit, right? This is a classic thing, right? So we've done that several times already. So first of all, we transform to a string. Once it's a string, we can do what? Split, correct? So once we have a split, we got individual numbers as strings. Because eventually, do I need to perform any kind of math operation? Yes, I want to get the modulus, right, the remainder. So because of that, I'm going to transform to number again. So I'm going to use map. Do you remember the trick we explained last week to easily transform from string into, yeah?
Number, yeah.
Into number, correct. Okay, so that's the first thing that we need to do, and then so once I have that, I'm just checking the live stream to see how much delay do we have. Yeah, okay, I got it with me now. Right, so now the next thing I would like to do is I need to iterate, right, over the array of individual digits. So how do we iterate? Well, we can simply use reduce, right, as we already know. And then, so reduce will have, first of all, the accumulator, which is going to be an array. So I'm going to call it, I don't know, is divisible, for example, and then as the second argument, I'm going to pass, what's the second argument of the reduce, guys?
We can just use math, right? Because we need one result per
That's correct.
element of the array.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes, we can use map. Because you're right. We want an array of the same size as the original array. So yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Let's transform that into map again. So using map, what we get here is
A number.
correct. I'm going to call it digit to make sure this is like one digit number. And then after digit, we have the index, I believe, and finally we have the array. Remember, same as reduce, it's the same API. I'll tell you something, I'm not that familiar with the map API, but that's why standards exist, right? Thanks to a standard, you should be able to predict how an API should look like. And this is a good example. I'm assuming, and we'll see in a second if I'm right or not, that map expects a second argument, which is the index. I'm not 100% sure about that. But I'm assuming that it receives a third argument, which is the array. So
we can use map twice in a...
Yeah, you can use, obviously you can do it in one go as well to save one iteration. Yes, whatever you want, Aysel. You can do it in one go. The reason why I split that is for readability purposes, because then otherwise I need to keep transforming to number all the time, several times here. So I find it a bit more elegant. But again,
do number at the beginning so you can number them all.
No, because number at the beginning, that was to transform a string into a number. And here we have an array of strings, right? Okay, so for each digit, what do we want to return? For each element, we want to return a boolean, true or false, right? It will be true if the number is divisible by the previous one. It will be false if not. So, the current digit is here, obvious, but the previous one is an array index -1. So, first of all, I want to determine what was the previous digit. If I'm on the first element, the previous digit will be the last one, right? Yeah. But if I'm not on the first element, the previous digit will be index -1, probably, right? So, let me see how can we do that. So let me create a variable, and we may optimize that later. Let previous index equals this index equal 0. So if index is 0, what's the previous index? Correct. And if it's not 0, what's the previous index? +1, that's the previous one. Index -1, that's correct. Index +1 will give me the next one. I'm going to divide by the previous one, right? Index -1, correct. So I got my previous index. So then I can easily return digit modulus array of previous index equal 0. So what that means? That means if the result of getting the modulus of one digit and the previous one is 0, that means that digit is divisible by previous index, right? So in that case, is 7 divisible by 2? No. False. Is 3 divisible by 7? No. False. Is 3 divisible by 3? Yes, true, right? And so on. Again, checking against the previous digit. What do you think, guys? Will this work? Any elegance issue, anything?
No.
No? Okay. Let's have a look. Let's see what happened. Yes, that's correct, right? So that works, and as Bala suggested, we can use map, which is probably a bit simpler than reduce, because we don't care about the accumulator, right? We have an array of digits. Ooh, sorry about that. We have an array, oops, I clicked somewhere, sorry about that. We have an array of digits, and we want to return another array of the same size. So definitely map works really well here, right? Any question? No? So let me have a look to your solution. So Daniel, for instance, he used map.floor, then he converted to string. So he has an array of numbers here, and then if the result of so he's first calculating the result of calculating the modulus on the first against the last one, and then ignoring the first one because he already pushed it, right? He keeps pushing the rest, which is fine. Yeah, I'm not against that, right? So he's essentially... What? Okay. Yeah, fair enough. But that's correct, right, Daniel? So that's fine. Bala, he did essentially the same thing we did here, right? So using map, yeah, so that's pretty much the same thing. Mo, he created an is divisible number, so you can see, so following what Aisel suggested at the beginning, so Bala and I, we first transformed to number, but Mo, he did it inline, right? So he didn't transform to number, but every time he's comparing, he's iterating, he's transforming to number on the fly, right? So yeah, that's another alternative. And I think that's pretty much it in regards to the first question. Anything else? No? Guys? Richard, Bala, Aisel? No?
Nothing for me.
Cool.
No, I just didn't get why it returned false and true.
Why we what?
I mean, I'm so tired today, sorry.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Question number 2. Combine words. Ooh. That's a bit tricky. We received 2 strings and we want to kind of concatenate them, but removing the duplicated characters and inverting the case, right? So you can see, it's actually, you can see that we're concatenating coding and rocks, but rocks is missing the O, because O was already part of the first one, and also we're changing the case. So if the character was lowercase, we transform it to capital and vice versa. So this is the typical question that you may solve it using like 50 lines, and then you realize that someone needed maybe 7, right? Because this is a good example of using set. We've been talking about set a couple of times already. Yeah. So every time you have to remove the duplicates, and that's a good example. Here we have to remove the duplicates. Set is very convenient. It definitely helps to keep your code short and precise. So how many arguments do we receive here? 2, correct. String 1 and string 2. So the first thing I would like to do is I would like to create a string of both strings concatenated. But to do that, I would like to remove the duplicates. So let me think about that.
The duplicate needs to be removed after concatenating anyway.
Say it again, Bala?
The duplicates need to be removed after the concatenation.
Yeah, of course, it needs to be removed after. Correct. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So I'm going to create a variable called combine strings, for example. Excuse me. Out of that variable, essentially, I would like to concatenate, maybe not in the most elegant way, but look at the way I'm concatenating them. I use ... string. No, actually, no. That's much easier. No, ignore that. So I can do string 1 plus string 2, right? So then I got both strings concatenated. Right, that's probably simpler. Because now I have a very long string with duplicates. Let's remove the duplicated characters. So let unique characters. So I'm going to create a new variable. And then, you know that using new set will remove the duplicates, right? So that will create a collection. Remember, that's not an array, but that's an array-ish. So how do we transform an array is into a pure array? Remember, dot, dot, dot to spread them, and then use square brackets to gather them, right? So hopefully, after line number 3, what I got is an array. And actually, I'm not sure if that's correct, because new set. So that's a good example. I don't know, and I'm being honest now, if set works with strings. I know it works with arrays, but I don't know if it works with a string. I'll play the gamble. I'll try to see if it works. If it works, amazing. If not, I will combine the strings into an array of characters.
Yeah, I think it has to be an array.
You think it has to be? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has to be an array, and that means it won't work. But hey, let's leave it like that, because if it works with the strings, even easier, right? Like includes. You remember includes? It works with the arrays, but also it works with the strings, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And the reason why I'm tempted to think that set may work with strings is because set works with iterable variables. Remember iterable, enumerable, for in, for off, right? So strings are iterable, arrays are iterable, maybe. Let's see. Anyway, after assuming I have an array of unique strings, now we want to convert it into a new unique string, so we can do unique characters. That's an array. So I can transform the case of the array easily, right? Using map. So with map, I got a character. How do we transform from capitals to lowercase and vice versa, guys? What?
Two uppercase or two lowercase equal.
Two uppercase, correct. That's the idea, you are right. So essentially what we need to do is, return. If character equal character dot to uppercase, if it's already capital, transform it to lower, right? Character dot to lowercase. And what happened if the character was lowercase? Correct. That's correct. If it was already lowercase, convert it to uppercase. So hopefully, after the after map, what we got is an array of inverted case characters, and eventually, hopefully, we need to join them, right, to have a string. So let's see if that makes any sense. Again, I'm not sure if that will work or not. If it doesn't work, we'll transform combined strings into an array.
Apparently it does.
Let's have a look. Right, okay, but that's something else, right? That's a problem, right? So I call it character and then character, right? So let's be consistent with the naming conventions. That's my fault, sorry about that. Right, that's why you got an error at the bottom. Let's see again. Right, nothing return. Oh, I forgot to add return a statement, right? Again, let's try again. Oh, look, it works. You see, I didn't know that. But that's great, because new set works with strings. So we don't have to transform the strings into an array. It's even simpler, right?
The only thing to bear in mind though is because it returns an array as opposed to the string.
No. Wait a minute. Set doesn't return an array. Set returns a collection. Set.
No, I mean the whole thing. The dot new set returns an array.
Yeah, of course, but that's pretty obvious because we're explicitly setting the brackets, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. That you see, that means that in that particular case, JavaScript is following the standards, right? Generally speaking, the more recent a feature in JavaScript is, the more predictable it is as well, right? It's not like, you remember when we explained on Friday clear interval, that it was returning a number. Do you remember the differences between splice and slice? Do you remember that push only returns the index of? So all JavaScript is a bit unpredictable, but recent new modern JavaScript is good because, even if you don't know something, that's a good thing it's easy to test and to prove, and generally speaking, it works. So, for example, look at what Itamar had to do, right? So we needed like maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 8 lines, and Itamar needed at least twice, right? Double. And that's, the main problem here is set. That's why mastering set is so important, because I'm sure that 4 or 5 lines out of this code are just to remove the duplicates on the array, right? Yeah, of course.
With set, how come it takes out the duplicated? I don't really understand how the duplicated words have been taken out.
Because again, set work with iterable. So set iterates. If it's an array, it iterates on each individual element of the array. If it's a string, it iterates on each individual character of the string. Okay. So then it can compare them, and it can determine if there is any duplication in that iterable object, right?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Cheers.
Ricardo,
yep.
We can rely on the order being...
That's a good question. Yeah. According to the standards, you can't.
Right.
According to the standard, you can't. That's a valid point, right? So if you're doing a job interview and you are using set, to me that's a valid solution, to be honest. This is pragmatic, right? Because if it's a string, I'm assuming JavaScript understands how to follow a string from the beginning to the end. But what Jav mentioned is a very good point, right? It's a bonus if you mention, hey, we can use new set, but we should be careful, because according to the standards, even though the browser is smart enough to handle that, but according to the standards, the order of the elements of set is not guaranteed. Right, and then, so about this question, so Bala, for instance, so he created a function to switch the case, and then, so he's switching the case for the first word, he's switching the case for the second word, he's splitting, and then, you see, he's using filter to remove the duplicates, correct, so that's a different strategy.
Although I knew the set thing, which I had used last time in the challenge, I thought this is much more, in terms of the flow, much easier, and didn't have to instantiate a new object using new and stuff. Just, it follows the same sort of functional pattern.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so, and Mo, Mo, are you there?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain your solution?
Well, it's pretty much exactly what Itamar done last time. So.
So that means you don't want to explain the solution, right?
It's spaghetti.
Right. Anything else, guys? No? Question number 3. Oh. This is the classic question that you feel is very easy to do, but the more you get into it, you realize that it's not that easy, right? This is quite complicated, actually, even though the question is trivial to grasp, right? Get the most repeated character. That's it, right? It takes 5 seconds to understand the problem, but then you can see how hard it is to find an eventual solution. So, we have a string, and we want to see what's the top character in this string, right? So, yeah, I'm pretty sure what I'm going to do, because I'm not 100% convinced how to do it in a super elegant way or super precise way. So I'm going to use maybe a longer way, and I'm sure if we do a bit of research, maybe some of you already found a very, very sexy way to solve the problem. I'm sure there is a very, very nice way to solve that problem, but I cannot think about that at the moment on top of my head. So I'll just follow a bit longer, but what I'm sure it will work. So find the most repeated character. We have a string, right? One argument, which is it a word? Can it be a sentence? Yeah, and it doesn't matter, right? Yeah, okay. I call it a string, because we don't care. It should work even if it's a sentence, maybe, ignoring the spaces. So, what do we got here? So we got a string. I'm not brave enough to put any return statement here, because I'm sure I'll need to split it into at least 2 or 3 steps. So the first thing I will try to do is I will try to keep a good data model. To me, a good data model, I will try to get an object like that. A1, true. B, not B, G6, U1. So I'm trying to create a map of characters and how many times each character is, kind of. And because once I have that object, it's relatively easy to find the top one. Makes sense? Okay. Yep. Cool. So there are many ways to solve the problem. Again, I'm not going to necessarily follow the most efficient or the shortest one. So first of all, let me create a characters map, which is an object. And that object will essentially create the map that we explained a minute ago. So because I have a string, I would like to use, I need to transform it into an array, right? So we use a split to create an array of individual characters. And because we have now the array of individual characters, we can use reduce, right? So I create two variables on reduce. First of all, the map of characters, and then I create the individual character. Again, because I want to have a key value and an object of key value pairs, where the key is the character and the value is how many times that key is in the string. Actually, we could use filter as well for that. I mean, there are different ways to solve the problem. But for now, I'm going to initialize it as an empty object. And then, essentially, the plan is, I'll return the map at the end, but before that, I would like to do a map of character equals map with one P or plus plus, right? This is essentially what we want to increase for each character. We want to increase the counter. But that has a problem. The very first time, for example, on the left-hand side, the first character is key, right? Was at the beginning the first value of key, map key, was that value? No, wrong.
Undefined.
It's undefined, right? We just have an empty object. So if I try to access the property key, there is nothing on it, right? So I need to make sure that at least I initialize the character, right? So what I can do is, if I don't have map of character, if I don't have it, then initialize it to what? Zero, correct. If I don't have it, initialize it to 0. And then, because I know that there will be at least something on it, then increase it by 1, right? So that will be the first step. Because I find that problem relatively complicated, I'm going to sacrifice now a bit of accuracy, and I'm going to return just the characters map to see if what I did is correct, because that's literally half of the problem. If that's correct, then I can progress to the second half. Look. That looks correct, actually, right? That's exactly what I wanted to do, right? I'm directing the problem to where I feel comfortable, because now I have an object. How many times key is? 1, O, 1, D, 1, I, 2. Right? So now the problem now we got an intermediate problem, right? Find the key with the top value. Right, so let's focus on the second part of the problem. So there are again multiple ways to solve the problem. Probably the easiest one is just let's loop, right? So I'm going to create two variables, maybe. First variable is, or maybe we can create an object with two variables on it. First of all, max key or max character, and then max count, if you want, right? Value, whatever. So why I do that? Because now I can loop over that object. How do you loop over the keys and values of the object? We can use for in, correct? We can use object.keys, right? Actually, I'm going to use object.keys of the characters map. So then that will give me key O, D, I, R, each individual character, right? So then, for each, I could use map as well, but I don't want to return anything. I just want to loop. It's a for loop from the beginning to the end, right? So for each key, now, I want to see if the value of that key is greater than the current max value, than the current count, right? So how do we access the value of the key?
Object.value.
No, I got my object already. I got the key of the object. So how do we access the value?
Square brackets count.
Key square brackets. No?
No.
Poppy? Sorry guys, sorry. Poppy is talking at the moment.
So again, with the square brackets, there's normally something inside the square brackets. If it was a for loop, it would be the I inside the brackets. But it's a regular for loop. But I'm just trying to think of what it would be in for in.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Let me rephrase the question, because that's a beginner question. So probably I wasn't enabled to express the problem. So I have an object called characters map, and I have the key. If I want to do a console log of the value associated to that key on that object, how do we do that?
So character map, square brackets key.
That's correct. That's correct. Characters map, square brackets key, will give me the value. Yeah? Remember, that's a problem on beginners objects. How do I access a dynamic value of a property, right? So I want to check, is that value greater than the maximum one? So if characters map.key is greater than max.count, can we do that? Then what? What do we do here?
Max.count equals.
Equals what?
Value.
Value. What is value coming from? Correct. You are right, guys. Yeah? Is that enough? Not really, because the problem doesn't want us to return the number of instances. It doesn't want us to return 2. It's a bit more complicated. We want to return the character associated to 2, which is the key, I. That's why I'm saving now max.character, because now we can do max.character equals what? Correct, the key. And that should be it. Now we can return what? Correct. Jaf is correct. Max.character. That's correct. Yeah. So that should hopefully work. We'll pay attention to the errors and stuff like that. Right. And readable. Oh, I forgot to remove the return statement we had before. So let's try again. Yes. And then it works fine. If we spend some time, there is a way to solve the problem using a single iteration. You can see that I'm iterating twice. First of all, to create the map, and then once I have the map, to extract the most repeated character. There is a way to use in one go using reduce, but I found.
That's what I did. I think Mo did the same as well. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll have a look. We'll have a look in a minute. Yeah. We'll have a look in a minute. Right? So again, I'm not defending that's the most optimum way to solve the problem, right? Because I found it a bit complicated. I used divide and conquer. I divide the problem in 2 parts, and once I was sure the first part was sorted, I focused on the second part, divide and conquer.
My thinking process was the same, like you did just now. But once I realized that I could do it, then I moved the logic into the review.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Bala, fair enough. So, Itamar. So what Itamar did is, that's very short actually. So he has the string split for each. So we got an array of individual characters, and then if string dot split. Whoa! Oh, I see what he did. That's pretty clever actually.
Okay.
But I'm not going to explain what he did. Itamar, are you around? I don't think he's connected. I would like him to explain what he did, right? So, yeah, I'm not going to explain that code, I'm afraid. And then Aysel. Aysel?
Yes.
Right? Can you explain your copy, which is surprisingly exactly the same as Itamar's code?
Is it similar? Oh my god. Well, I searched it on internet
Yep.
and I tried to figure it out myself.
Yep.
So, I found the solution. Where was it? I don't know, on Google.
Right.
But I can explain.
Okay, yes, please, can you explain?
Why? Itamar, I don't know. How comes?
No,
I don't know.
you both clearly copied from the internet, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, right? But it's good. At least you're being honest. I mean, it's not something radically wrong, right? It's not. I mean, it's a bad thing. To me, it's a bad thing. But okay.
I put the same name, like how to solve this problem on JavaScript.
Yeah.
And it come up like this. So there was different options actually. So I thought this one is quite useful.
Perfect. Then can you share it with us? Why? So what's going on here, Aysel?
First, you do variables, so letters and chart. So then you split them, and for each, you take in the length of the character. Consider it. And then you return the chars.
I think no one understood you, Aysel. Right. Let's do something. Aysel, let's be honest. You don't understand that code, right? And I'm sure Itamar doesn't understand the code neither, right? And that's what we're trying to avoid. Is acceptable-ish to do copy-paste from the internet as far as, Aysel, as far as you understand what you're doing, right? But it is a good example where neither you or Itamar, I'm sure, understand what you're doing. And that's dangerous. Because if you don't understand what's going on here, if there is something wrong, we are unable to debug it because we don't understand what's going on, right? So please try to avoid this kind of things. I prefer you to fail. I prefer you not to get the points. But at least once you manage to understand it, then, you know.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
to say then, as long as you're not against that, but you have to be able to explain what you're doing.
Of course, right? If you copy from the internet, but you don't know what are you copying, what happened? Because look, here we're copying 20 lines of code. What happened if we're copying 100 lines of code? What happened if out of 100 lines of code, someone is stealing our passwords? Well, this thing, it's dangerous, right, to copy paste from the internet.
How would they do that? You'd ask the person who reviewed the code before and ask them to
Yeah.
and then copy and paste.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the long story short is don't copy paste from the internet. That's it. And there will be huge penalties in the short future for whoever copies from the internet. Because as I don't know if you understand what you're copying, I don't know, right? I don't know. Then my only way to control that is don't do that. And then I'm sure that whatever you do is because, you know, you can still copy it by hand, but you know, you'll be probably less tempted to do that than just doing a copy paste. Cool. Yeah. So Yeah.
I can explain. Yeah.
Say it again?
Do you want me to explain my solution?
Yeah, you see, if you want, yes, go for it.
No, so all I'm doing that because essentially we need to get the character based on the count of the character.
Yeah.
So we're setting a max count outside because the first time we loop in, we need something to compare against.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're splitting the word. Obviously, word is the wrong choice. I think it should be a string or sentence really. But yeah, so we split it and then we reduce. So I have a most repeated accumulator, which essentially captures the character that is the most repeated one. So within that, I created a new regex and match that character and get the length. And if that is so, essentially that regex returns the characters matching that from that string. So we'll get the length, and then if that length is greater than the max count, which initially will be 0, so then it will substitute that character for into the accumulator, and it loops through. And if the length goes over for any other character, then it substitutes that. So ultimately returns the most repeated one.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Bala. Can anyone see any penalty issue on Bala's solution in terms of elegance?
Is there a space after comma?
That's correct. Look at the last line. Yeah, subtle thing. Missing a space.
I didn't get any warnings though.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. No, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I know, yeah, okay. So maybe the system is not reporting any warning here. It should, but even if it's not, right? Remember, when we put a comma, we should always put a space, right? Cool. Thank you, guys. Question number 4. I think we're going to run out of time today, unsurprisingly. Sort by modulus. Ooh, what that means? It takes definitely more than 5 seconds to understand what the expectations are here, right? So we have a number, it's just a number, right? So we want to essentially put the odd numbers on the left, sorted, and then put the even numbers on the right. I think that's a bit easier than the one before. So what I'm going to do, my strategy, and there are multiple ways to solve that one, is I'm going to use reduce to have 2 groups of data. First of all, odds, and then events. And once I have these 2 groups, I can join them. I can sort and join them easily. So that should be relatively easy. Relatively easy. So function sort by modulus. Why the function is called sort by modulus, by the way? I think the name is again horrible, right? So modulus is completely unrelated to, well, modulus. Sort by even and odd. A bit controversial. Anyway, sort by modulus. We receive a number, right? Because we receive a number, let me create a variable of groups, something like that. And that variable will essentially do number.toString. So first of all, as usual, right, we want to iterate. Because we want to iterate, let's convert to string. Once we got a string, let's use reduce. So with reduce, we can have groups, and then each individual digit. Actually, let me convert everything into a number again. Remember, map number. So then I'm sure I'm playing with numbers, because essentially we want to get the modulus to see if they are odd or even. So then finally, the default value, and that's the important thing, will be an object with 2 arrays, odds and evens. Oops. You see the 2 groups I'm creating, right? So then I'll push to one or the other easily, right? So then now I can do, let me return groups before I forget. Return groups. And finally, let me do if digit modulus 2 equal 0, Then what, guys?
Push it to the event array.
Correct. That's correct. Groups.events.push digit. And else what? Correct. 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 Yeah? And then we return it. Because now I have the two groups, hopefully already filled. Now, this is pretty simple or relatively simple. Let me sort them first. So I'm going to create let sorted odds. And actually, to complete that, I'm going to create another function because this function is getting a bit long already. So I'm going to put function sort, because I'm going to put it twice. So I'll invoke sort of an array of numbers. So that's very easy, right? We simply, actually, are they numbers? Yes, they are numbers, yes. So we can do return numbers.sort, number 1, number b. So now, how is the logic? Is 1 minus 2 or 2 minus 1? Is 1 minus 2, correct? Because we want to sort them ascendingly, right? Right. So now I can invoke the sort method, passing first of all the odds, groups.odds, and then I can invoke it again for the events, correct? Yeah. And then, because I have two sorted arrays, I just need to, concatenate them, right? I just need to concatenate them. So, generally speaking, I want to do return. There are multiple ways to do that, right? We can do sorted odds.concat sorted events, right? That will give an array, but we don't want the array, we want a number. So we can join them, right? And then after joining, we can transform. How do we transform a string into a number?
Number the whole thing.
Correct, number the whole thing. That's correct, right? Does it make sense? Let's see if it works. Oops, number due to string.map is not a function. Interestingly, number due to string.map number. That's interesting. So there is a problem on the very first line. I forgot to split, right? Look. Right. So number to string, but if we use map, first of all we need a split, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Let's try again. Right. Now it works perfectly, right? There is another way. If you don't like the concat way, you can always do that, right? We can join two arrays in JavaScript using ... sorted odds, comma, ... sorted events. Whatever you prefer, right? That's the same thing. Are we here gathering or spreading? Spreading, right? We have an array and we spread them into a comma-separated list of arguments. There is a typo. Sorted, what did I type here? Sorted, oops, no, sorry, that's my fault. There's a typo here. Yeah. Ashley, when is your talk? Is it tomorrow? Wednesday, correct. So Ashley will go through all the details of the REST operator, gather, spread, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Any question on that problem?
Yes.
Yeah?
Question,
line number 14 and 15.
Yes, I don't see the value in doing that. Why wouldn't you just do groups.odds.sort?
Easy, that's a good question. Because I need to do the same thing twice. For me, everything, I don't like boilerplating code, right? Everything I need to do the same thing twice or thrice. I prefer to create a function and then I do it once.
I think you misunderstand.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Why wouldn't you, instead of calling a function that you've written yourself called sort,
Yeah,
groups.odds are numbers, aren't
yeah.
they? So don't they have a method sort?
Right, so you want just to use dot sort without any argument, right? Just empty sort, open and close parentheses. Yeah, we can do that. You know, I'm not a big fan of the default sort mechanism.
Do it online.
Yeah, I know. The reason is I'm not a big fan of the default sort mechanism because it's not reliable at all. It doesn't work as soon as you change a bit your data model. Because I don't trust it, I always create my own sort methods. And because I create my own sort methods and I don't want to create them twice, I create a utility function. So if tomorrow, for example, the question changes and I want to sort the arrays, the numbers descendantly, I had to change one line. Yeah, so it's a bit, in my opinion, more optimum. Cool. So what do you here, guys? Sort by modulus. So Daniel. Daniel. So okay. So he's using filter. Interesting. He's using filter to get. I'm not. So he's using filter to get. So these are the odds, and these are the evens, right? Why the syntax is a bit weird, right?
Yes.
What num mod means? But that's even wrong because it's on the other way around, right? Number not modulus should be the numbers where modulus is 0, right? In your case, number not modulus are the numbers that modulus is 1, the odds, right? So I will personally call them num odds, and the other one evens, right? I think it's just easier to read. But anyway.
Function name itself is wrong, like you said, you know.
Yeah. And also, interestingly, and that, I really like that, what Daniel did here, is actually, I said that we need to sort twice, but he's right. We can just, before grouping, we can just sort it, right? Yeah, that's it. We can sort it once. That could be a bit more efficient. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. We can simplify this a bit. So after that line, after that map, yeah, so here I can do sort, number 1, comma, number 2, and then I can do number 1 minus number 2, right? So then I don't need a sort function, and then I can simplify this a bit more, so I can do groups dot odds and groups dot events, right? I like that, Daniel.
You're not using the if, you're not using the modern version.
Ricardo, because it's a number, you don't need to set the condition, do you? Because it's already in a number form, not a string.
As I explained before, here sort is not necessary. But I don't like to rely on the default sort of JavaScript. That's why I prefer to build sort by myself. Because if tomorrow I change numbers to string numbers, the cost of adapting my function will be, reduced. If I delegate into default sort, yeah. Cool. Yeah, so that's a good thing, Daniel. You're completely right. So we can sort at the very beginning, right? Because if we sort the numbers, they will be sorted all the time. And then we can group the odds and the evens. That's a good thing. So then Bala, he creates an array of numbers, and then so he keeps first of all odds, and then he keeps the events, right? So this is the typical thing that, because you see, we have pretty much the same logic twice, right? It's the same. The only thing that changes between these 4 lines and these 4 lines is literally that number, yeah. So this is a good example where I strongly recommend to create a function to reuse as much code as possible, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then finally, Mo, what's that plus? Oh yeah, I know what's up. Can you explain what that plus is, Mo?
Yeah, so Ricardo, so basically on Saturday, Code Academy, some guy guy was telling me that this function converts it to number straight in. I asked him, is it ES6? He said, I don't know. I said, okay, let me use it. I can't explain to you on Monday or whenever. I don't know, it just does the job.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. That's correct, actually. I never used that, but that's interesting, right? So generally speaking, the way we transform from strings to number is we do number 6 equals 6. Yeah? But now, can we do... Yeah? That's a shorthand in modern JavaScript. It's pretty interesting, right? I never use it. It's good.
Oh, great. Is it ES6? Is it ES6, Ricardo, or is it modern?
I don't know. I don't know. I cannot tell you. Yeah, I don't know. I never use it, so I don't know.
I'm just wondering, what will happen if you use this in a pipeline like we do, the split map, blah, 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 then put a plus somewhere. Will it take it as concatenation or conversion to number?
Well,
No. Yeah.
if we do 4 plus 6, it returns 46.
Yeah.
So you do just plus 6, it's
Difficult to reason about that.
yeah. Well, anyway, anything else, guys, in regards to this question? No? Yeah? No? Okay, cool. So last question, we ran out of time, so we don't have time to do it, but I'm going to recommend you something critical if you want to get a good score on the last. Yeah, so the question is not that complicated if you follow this suggestion. So whenever you have this kind of problem, please create as many functions as possible. This is a good example where I need a function to convert to Pascal case, I need a function to convert to camel case, and I need a function to convert to snake case. Right? That's super obvious, right? So we can prepare it, even though we don't have time to fully finish it. So we got a string, so then we can return. Okay, we need to return an object. We agree on that, right? An object with 3 properties. Pascal, whatever. Camel, whatever. Snake, whatever. And now it's my time to create function convert to Pascal. Right? And then I will have another function convert to camel. You see how we are delegating the responsibility to this method to do something specific. Function convert to snake. Right? So we pass the string, right? And obviously now we can invoke these functions individually. Convert to string, convert to camel, and then convert to snake. We can actually convert to snake, that's pretty simple. So how do you convert kebab case into snake case?
Just join twice with a hyphen and underscore.
Join. Well, yes, you can use join, of course.
I mean, it's a split and join bit.
Split and join, yeah, you can use a split and... Correct. Correct. Let's do that. With regex, you can return string dot replace. So then I can say, okay, find the dashes, the hyphens, and replace them with underscores. Does it make sense? That's the simplest way to do that, right? So if we run it, obviously it will fail for Pascal and camel, but look, at least a snake, it was fine, you see? That's a bit scary, but yeah, yeah. So that's the way we solve the problem, right? And then obviously you need to focus on Pascal. How do you transform from kebab case to Pascal case and to camel case? I'm not going to explain that now because we've got 1 minute left. But that's a good exercise. I recommend you to go to DevTools, take the string, and then try to analyze how to transform that string into this one and into that one.
Any comments on my solution?
Let's have a look. So, to me, the main thing is readability. Again, that function is very long. It's too long, right? So I will create several methods to do the job.
Okay.
Apart from that, I mean, the snake is the easiest case, right? And then Pascal is not the most complicated one. So with Pascal, yeah, I mean, that's fine. Again, splitting everything into separate functions, that's the right thing to do, right? I mean, if you search on the internet a bit, so generally speaking, instead of using map, which again, I like it, I really like it, but the classic approach is use slice. So with the slice, you can easily get the first character, convert it to capital, you know, you can do all these things, right? But anyway, map is absolutely fine, it's very elegant as well.
Slice or slice?
Slice.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, no, don't change your mind. I like what you did. I just say that that's probably not the most classic approach, right? But it's valid. It's equally valid, of course.
No problem. No, that's useful, definitely. Thank you.
Cool. We're out of time, guys. Anything else? No? Cool. Thank you very much for watching, and talk to you soon.